All right, just sit with me, sit with me. I've been having a lot of insight recently on the connection between government, finances, and the financial system, education, and their connections with our internal, eternal, the original signal, and what their representation is for us. Recently, I've been meditating a lot more on my original signal, or the internal hum or the awareness, the whisper of the soul that is before all programming, all realities that um, we may have internally, in terms of like the different stories that we have, the awareness that is the projector or the generator of it all. And in an article I recently saw, scientists were actually now coming to the realization of our consciousness as being something that is broadcast, and our brain is the receiver. Our brains are not the generator of consciousness or awareness. They are receivers, quite similar to how our cell phones receive Wi-Fi signal. And so, which is why in especially like manifestation spaces, they talk about working on, well, at least the more aligned teachings, right? Speak on working on your internal frequency first, since that is the cause. You can't change the effect by changing the effect. You have to change the cause, and the cause is the frequency, our internal signal, what is being sent out. And so, and that has to do with like whatever filter we have, right? The way how we may perceive ourselves, our reality, and how that plays out again internally would then reflect itself in our external reality. So I recently was just tapping in and feeling out what is the meaning of, for example, government. What is the meaning of, or what is the connection internally to the government, or the financial system, right? We have situations where we have, um, where some corrupt governments are actually utilizing their power and their resources, which are really, for the most part, the taxpayers' resources, right, to control, monitor, to lock in, or even create separation even more, right? And in feeling into this, and also through reflection, conversations with other people, um, a part of it came up as an emotional connection, but also the recognition or the remembering that these systems are expressing themselves as reflections of our forgetting our sovereignty internally, forgetting that we are abundant inherently, right? Um, Government in itself would be connected to our inability, or at least we've forgotten that we have direct knowing. And so the what's interesting is that then it created a surrogate connection or a surrogate reflection externally of a government, right? Where people now have the need for the government to tell them what to do, to think for them, to represent them, and all of that. Same with the financial system. We've forgotten our inner abundance, and so there's this whole reflection about debt and owing an institution and financial corruption and all that stuff. Rain. Hold on. All right. And so essentially, with the remembering of these institutions as surrogates, and we could even talk about the education system. The way how I see it now, the education system is a surrogate of us forgetting our again, our internal knowledge, right? So we have to go to someone, a teacher, go to a university, get a certificate and all that to remember certain information. But again, we then learn information that is within the filtered or the more disconnected understanding, right? So, for example, medical doctors, right? They don't necessarily have the awareness of the holistic approach, right? They don't really, not all of them, but a good majority of them wouldn't necessarily know much about, for example, how the mental, the emotional actually affects the body, right? As the cause of all disease, actually, right? And again, that's an example. And so again, it reflects the forgetting, right? And a surrogate or a mimic is put in place. And even with AI as the mimic of consciousness, right? The mimic of access to a database. Right, and so because we've forgotten that access to our database, even though we've never lost the connection to any of it, right? What we have done is changed our perspective. Our perspective is as solid matter, right? Our hands, everything, solid matter. Most people, which is what the inversion perspective is us seeing the physical reality and allowing it to take precedent over our internal state of being, our internal state of remembering. And when we switch the perspective, right, and remember that our internal existence, our internal plane of being, right, our internal states of being generate or at least are mirrored in the external reality, right? We then are able to decipher certain information, certain things that happen within our physical reality, and we are able then to, through that understanding, through that remembering, change our internal state of being, change the signal, right? The filters that are actually, which would be a belief, a story that is playing out. It could be even within the nervous system as well. We would have certain stories, certain trauma, certain beliefs locked into the nervous system as well. And the nervous system would be that signal pulse, or it would basically be sending out the pulse. And from the moment we switch that perspective, we're able to actually see a lot more within the reality. All right, so I'll leave it there. I'll make another video on all of this soon. Check the rain. All right. So yeah, we'll talk again soon.